Hi, hello, and welcome back to another episode of my podcast. Now, what was I talking about? I'm V Noir, and it's been a while. It's been a minute, actually. Whoops, my bad. Life was lifing. I haven't posted since March 21st. It is now May. So I moved, and that was a lot. Both finding a place and then moving and packing and all that stuff. So that's kind of why I haven't done my pod. And I'm like, I guess I don't know. I just didn't want to, I didn't want to feel, I don't want this pod to feel like work. Like I want this to be a fun thing that I do. Just to talk about movies and shows that I'm watching and like things like that. So yeah, so it's like, yes, I want to post every week. And I will get back to that now officially. I meant to upload this yesterday, today being Saturday, yesterday being Friday. But I fell asleep because I am a tired bitch. But anyway, I watched a bunch of stuff still. I of course like I'm gonna talk about White Lotus, I'm gonna talk about more Will Trent, although I didn't watch this week's episode or last week's. The season's about to end, so I think I might with shows, it depends. With shows, I might do it in chunks where I talk about 3 episodes at a time. We'll see. Changing the structure. Um, I saw the TV Glow. No, which I did last year. I love that movie. I'm gonna buy the Blu-ray of it because there's deleted scenes and all this stuff, and I'm like, I need that. I love this movie. I need that. Um, and what is it? I probably brought this up, but yeah, I'm doing like classes again. Um, and I actually want to get more serious about filmmaking after doing this like documentary film class that I'm currently in. Even though the project that I'm doing, I'm like kind of over it, but I'm like, no, we're gonna finish it. We're gonna make this be something that I am proud of, and I'll probably post it on my YouTube as well. We'll see about that. But I don't know, being on testosterone and I'm like since it's been a month, I feel like going from episode 11 to this episode, there's going to be a distinctive change in my voice that you will notice probably because it's been like almost 2 months. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's like I feel like I have more of a will to live. And um, prior to that, I was kind of just grasping at straws to motivate me to want to stay around, essentially. It's like I adopted cats. That was a thing that was like keeping me alive. I went back to school. I was going to like City College um, in San Francisco because they have free school. And I was like, okay, let's take a writing class. I did that 2 years later. Um, I took violin because even though violin was a thing that kind of was forced onto me because my older brother didn't want to do it anymore, I always wanted to play drums. And I'm also currently like self teaching myself how to play the drums on my own because that's like always been a dream of mine to know how to play the drums. But yeah, so at first I didn't like playing violin, and then when I really got into it, I actually really did enjoy playing violin. And I was playing it in elementary school up to like middle school. Um and I was pretty good. And there was like a technique specifically in violin that I didn't learn that I wanted to learn. But then after middle school, after moving from Georgia to New Jersey and then back to Georgia, and like no, New Jersey, they didn't have music programs, so I couldn't do violin anymore. And then going back to Georgia, the high school that I was in had music, but it was only like band, like brass and stuff. So I couldn't do orchestra anymore, which sucked. But going to City College, doing the violin class and like relearning and re-remembering notes and stuff. was really nice. And I finally, because I didn't know what the technique was called, but essentially it's called vibrato. And that's like moving your finger while playing the note. And so it's like a whole technique that I have to um learn and like get the muscle memory down for. And it takes a while, but I'm excited because that is the thing that I wanted to know how to do with violin. And I'm so glad that the teacher that I had in that class was like, this is what it's called. And like would demonstrate it. I mean, like literally whenever he would play, he was doing vibrato, and I was like, "Oh, that's so cool, and it sounds so good, and I need to know how to do this." But yeah, so it was like violin was a thing that I was like, "Okay, let's do this because this is something that I loved from my childhood. Um, let's do this thing to sort of motivate me to be here and like just learning and doing things like that." And it's like I feel like all of last year was like me um doing stuff that was like affirming my like inner child and my inner teen, because it's like I did violin last spring, although I haven't been practicing at all. I need to be practicing. And then over the summer I went to the When We Were Young Fest in Vegas and saw all these bands that I loved growing up, that of course growing up I couldn't actually go to their concerts because my parent it's not like my parents would have let me or anything like that. Had a very uh what's it called? Like kind of strict, sheltered childhood. Like I wasn't really allowed to leave the house like that. Or go places like that as like a teenager. Um which sucked. But I digress. And then yeah, so getting into what I'm going to talk about today. Um uh so White Lotus is over. Definitely going to talk about that. Definitely talking about Will Trent, and then I'm going to talk about Castlevania Nocturne because I watched that while unpacking in my new place. And then I'm going to of course talk about Sinners because I love that movie. I saw that movie. I need to see it in IMAX. Maybe like two more times. Maybe two more times. Definitely got to see it in IMAX. And definitely just in general gonna see it because it's really good. Um, but before we get to Sinners, because I'm gonna end it with Sinners, and in general, I'm like, I need to make like a fake disclaimer situation. Oh, that's what it's talking about. I need to make a fake disclaimer situation that I put as like a cute little bumper of like the following podcast will have spoilers about television shows. You will be warned or whatever. Because then like it's so annoying to try to remember to say I'm gonna spoil this thing, but if I'm talking about it, I'm gonna spoil it. I'm not gonna really do like a spoiler free version of it and then go into spoilers. Like I'm gonna just keep yapping and keep going. But what I was gonna say was like last semester in the fall of last year, I took a introduction to filmmaking, like a film production class, because I was like, let's get into film. Let's see how I like this, and like getting into it was really fun. I do enjoy filmmaking. I was realizing that um, essentially for me, like photography growing up was like the one freedom that I kind of had, especially coming from like this religious strict upbringing, and not really being able to leave like go out or whatever. But also I was a homebody anyway, so it was like I was just fucking watching anime and K dramas at home, and I was like not wanting to really do anything anyway. But so it wasn't all bad. But just realizing that I enjoy filmmaking and I love the collaborativeness of it. There are things that I want to do by myself when it comes to filmmaking. Like there are um that's just how it is. That's how it's gonna be, I think, when it comes to, like, my solo projects, unless I'm wanting to collaborate with, like, actors and whatnot. But typically, I feel like a lot of my filmmaking, it's or, like, the things that I do are gonna be, kinda solo, very guerrilla style because I'm like, "Fuck these permits." No, not fuck these permits, but, um, it'll just be interesting to try to, I don't know, just, I don't even know what I was saying. I just got distracted by, like, the 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 audio monitor moving back and forth and, like, getting red when it's peaking. Um, what was I saying? But yeah, filmmaking, um, and then, like, at near the end of that semester was when, like, the tea was hitting and, like, giving me I was feeling the will to live and being like, "Oh, this is what I wanna do. I wanna be in filmmaking. I wanna help I wanna be in film production and, help people with their projects and things like that, and just do that amongst other things that I do." Uh, which is fine. I'm like, I enjoy having multiple interests. People say there's not enough time in a day, but it's like, well, you can we live in a capitalist society and you have to kind of and work towards um being able to pay your bills and whatnot. And it's like when you're working towards the weekend. And it sucks because America doesn't fund art in general or like film or anything like that. And it's like most other countries do that. They do same with like the Olympics too. Other countries, they promote and like um fund their athletes. We don't do that. Like literally our Olympians have to be fucking working a 9 to 5 and while also fucking training for the Olympics. And it's like, no, our society should not be like that. We should be funding the arts. We should be funding the Olympics. We should have more music programs in schools. Like I loved being able to do that growing up because it definitely um started learning music theory and like understanding how to play an instrument fundamentally changed like how I like think and see and like even just listening to music. It feels different. And it's not like I went to a really like rich school or something, like I was very much in like urban education, like, like I was at schools that had like really old textbooks and stuff, like um and it sucks too because I didn't go to schools that had like theater programs either. So, and I know I would have been like probably a theater kid if I um had that opportunity, but I digress. And like our fucking system is failing people to the point where because I was seeing a thing about like how people who don't use AI in schools, and I mean like high school or whatever, how they feel a way that, they're not using AI and they're getting bad grades while their counterparts are using AI and getting better grades. So it's like people are almost incentivized to use AI to get good grades. And it's like even when I was in school, there there was a shift in like people caring about just people getting A's. And what sucks is that um, especially for public school, it's like funding comes from how good of the grades your students are getting. And it's like that shouldn't be the system we live in. You should get funding because of your school, not because uh your students are A students. It's like no, you should get funding because you exist. And yeah, it's like no, people are being incentivized to use this program that's literally killing our planet, and it's like all these systems are being built in urban neighborhoods, so it's like stealing resources from these places too. And it's like that's not only like in the global south, it's like it's happening here in America, like resources being taken from people. But again, it's like because you're not directly affected by it, like it's not happening in your neighborhood, you're not aware, so you don't really care. It's like, oh, this is happening to people far off, you know? Anyway, so that was sad. I'm like, oh yeah, let's get hella depressed. I mean, I was seeing this other thing about like how there's that fucking Studio Ghibli AI trend going on, and it's like people that don't even know Studio Ghibli. There was like, I mean, I don't know if it was a real statistic, but like the fact that they're the people that know of Studio Ghibli will only know of it because of this AI trend rather than the actual films that Studio Ghibli created. And fucking Miyazaki, I don't remember his full name for some reason right now. He doesn't even believe in AI. So I'm like, and like he literally called it like an insult to humanity itself. Because I remember seeing like an interview that he was doing where these people were showing off their like new AI generated animation, and the movement was so bizarre, and like Hayao Miyazaki was saying like, this reminds me of a friend of mine who was going through this like um disease that's basically um taking away his mobility, and like he moves like this, but this is a machine that wouldn't understand how like offensive and bad this is. Like this is like completely against humanity, and it's also like it really fucking sucks because a lot of Miyazaki movies are about um like sort of life after the end of the world, and like this sort of mixture of science and nature and all this stuff, and it's very much not about uh machinery taking over. It's very much about humanity, like persevering, so it's like, how can you say you're a fan of Studio Ghibli and then participate in this nonsense? And it's also like, get someone to fucking draw this shit. I'm just so tired. I'm just so fucking tired, man, of like art not being taken seriously, and people looking for shortcuts for shit. And it's like, no, this is a skill. This is literally what someone went to school for and studied really hard for. And you're thinking like, oh, if I just fucking put this prompt in, now I'm an artist because it was able to shoot this nonsense out in like 5 seconds or whatever the fuck. I don't understand how this shit works, except for the fact that it's stealing from actual people who actually did these things and spent hours doing the work, and their work just being fed into this machine and the machine spitting it out, you know? I'm gonna end my AI rant right there. And let's kind of just get into White Lotus. I mean, I did finish it a while ago. I mean, it ended a while ago. I wanted to talk about the sort of controversy with the intro missing the in the beginning, and how the I'm like, I can't believe I just did that, and it actually sounded kind of like the the actual thing. Um, but and how the composer of that, uh, Cristobal Tapier de Ver, I hope I said his name right. How the composer of that is not coming back for season 4, and also how he uploaded an extended version of the intro that did include the like, I kind of like doing that now. But he had posted an extended version of it that he wanted to be used in the full moon party scene, because it's like people were missing that sound, and it dropping during like a club scene would be really good. It would have been so interesting to see, like, because there's the scene where the girls are like meeting up with the Russians, and like just hearing that pin drop would have been amazing. It would have been fantastic. But so let's see. He was clarifying what people were confusing because people thought that this extended version was supposed to be the actual intro, and it's not. So yeah, let me quote him off of his YouTube. Um, Looks like some people are confusing things, so to clarify, I did not leave the show due to tensions around the theme. The short theme for season 3 was intended the way it is from the start. There was never concern from anybody about bringing back the previous vocals, and no one censored a longer version. 1 minute and 45 seconds is the HBO norm, and that's that. Any longer version was to come out on the album, as in the previous season. What was refused by production is to bring a longer version later in the show. I asked for that because it would have been the perfect build up towards the party, the hit drop, or whatever. The club would have exploded. My favorite version of all is actually nothing but the voice from season 3 theme, which I also posted. I don't need any music with it. This version here is for the sake of joy and party and would have been fun to feel like you're on that yacht with this music. So that's him talking about it. Um, but yeah, I don't know. People have misconstrued that this was the intended theme, and it's like, no, the HBO just has a time limit of 1 minute and 45 seconds for their theme music, and I can't go past that because the extended version is 2 minutes and 45 seconds. So, um, but to say about White Lotus, honestly, it's like skip everything else because, I mean, there was the whole thing with the dad and the family. I'm like, I don't even remember the characters' names anymore. I also can't find my notebook that listed all the character names either right now. So I'm like, well, I'm doing my best. But I'm like, I don't even have a desk right now because in my old tiny ass apartment, I couldn't have a desk. But I was recording my pods on my kotatsu, which my kotatsu is really cute, which is kind of like a coffee table situation with a heater element under it. Um, it's a Japanese furniture, and that was convenient. But now it's in the living room, and the living room doesn't have that much furniture in it, so it's kind of echoey, and I didn't want to really deal with having an echo in the background. So I'm in my room on my bed right now, but I need to get a desk. And when I get a desk, I also plan on starting streaming, which will be fun, like streaming on Twitch, which I will probably start to do like once a month. We'll start off once a month. It'll depend on the game, because I think what I'm gonna do is I'll be playing a game, and then I'll probably stream the game um concurrently. Like it'll probably be like I'll do if I'm trying to beat the game, I'll do it like one uh oh, I'll do like one session after another. So it'll be like I'll stream like 3 days in a row in a week or something. And then I'll do like a monthly stream of like a cozy game, probably. Like that sounds about right. Like I'll probably start, I think it's called Song of the South. Nope, I am I just confused that fucking racist ass Disney game. I mean, racist ass Disney movie with the game that just came out, which is very black, very southern. Let me not insult it and call it that though. Give me a second. It's called South of Midnight. I'm like, come on, let's do better. But I mean, I don't really believe that I called it uh Song of the South. I'm like, no, that's Disney. Disney. But yeah, to get into White Lotus, honestly, I think I'm just gonna talk about the season finale. Because I mean there's definitely buildup of what is it? There's the three women on their girls trip, and you find out that one of the girls is like, sorry, there's like a sound distracting me. Yeah, I'm like it doesn't matter because I can't remember their names. But anyway, so it's like you have I'm like I only remember Belinda's name. Belinda's the most important to me. No, what is it? So you have the family, right? The dad is dealing with this sort of fallout with his company and is essentially going to lose all of his money, and he keeps getting these different things from his family about like how um they can live without the riches and comforts that they currently have. And he's like, shit, well, I guess I'm gonna have to do a murder suicide with everybody. And he had stolen the guard's gun, but then the guard found the gun while they weren't there, while the family was gone, and got it back. So his thought to, shoot everybody, that went out the window. And so he decides to get this fruit that the core of the fruit is known as like it's just known that people crush this up in order to kill themselves. And so he's like, I'm gonna make everyone a pina colada. Except for you. Lachlan. I think Lachlan is the or is it Saxon? That's what I'm saying. I don't remember the okay, it's Lachlan. Saxon is played by Patrick Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger's son. You know, that guy. He does kind of look like his dad. Also, people were saying like nepotism and all of this stuff, and I'm like, he's been acting for a while, and this is probably one of his bigger roles because I'm like, I remember watching him in Gen V, which is like the spin-off show of The Boys on Amazon. God, that sounded like an ad just now. And he did such a good job in that, playing this like sort of goody two shoe like his character in the White Lotus is so very different from his character in Gen V that I was like, oh, so he's a good actor because he did such a believable job in Gen V for me that I was like, this is a good person who's being tortured by the knowledge of like the sort of inner workings of the school and like people being tortured and him wanting to save his brother and him literally being brainwashed from even believing that his brother is still alive, but he knows that something's amiss, and then like literally killing himself. And I think that's like the first or second episode, so he's not even really in the show for that long, and then you're kind of getting flashbacks of his character throughout the season. But I'm like, he did such a good job in such a short amount of time, with this role. So, and then like for him to like come into this show and play this like douchey, like character. Also, it's funny because the dad, he's always wearing these like Duke University shirts and stuff. That that literally Duke University came out and was like, we don't like that they had him in that because no one from our school is like this. And it's like, huh? First of all, yes, they are. Secondly, what are you talking about? You're getting free advertisement. you know? Anyway, all press is good press to some people. Even bad press. But what else happened? Oh, anyway, so he makes these pina coladas using the suicide pit fruit. Suicide pit sound kind of but he makes it for everyone, including Piper, the daughter. I'm like, oh. If she thought she could handle doing a year at this Buddhist retreat, and the mom encouraged her to like spend a night there, and she was there with Lachlan, the youngest son, and she realized that like shit, no, I can't do this. I was uncomfortable. The food tasted bad. I can't do this for a year. I actually like the life that I do have. And the mom was like, thank God, because yeah, no, you can't do this shit. And then then the dad was like, fuck, now I gotta add you to the fucking suicide the murder suicide plot. Well, we're just gonna save Lachlan. He's not gonna have any of this pina colada. And so he makes it, he gives it to everyone except for Lachlan because he's like, "You're not 21. You can't have this." And he's drinking it. Some of Saxon drinks some of it, and then he's like, "Fuck, no, 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 no. We can't." No, he just literally like he smacks the glass out of Saxon's hand, and then is just like, "No, the milk's gone bad. It's terrible. It tastes terrible," and dumps everything. But he doesn't clean the fucking blender that he used. And my thinking was they probably didn't even have any of the actual pit because there's so much pulp and stuff at the bottom of the blender. So they were probably all fine. And then what happens? Later on, Lachlan doesn't clean the blender either because why would he? Honestly, people are like saying it's because he's a guy and whatever. I was thinking he just wanted to taste the pina colada that he ended up missing because that's what his thinking is. Oh, it's still here, it's still in this blender, even though Dad poured everything out. So I was thinking he probably just was like, I'm gonna get flavor of this pina colada that I missed out on, plus this protein shake and the water. That was my thinking. He was like, haha, I'm gonna luck out and get drunk and also protein, encouraged by my older brother who's trying to make me a man or whatever. Um, but what it was, it wasn't cleaned out, and all the pit was basically still in the blender. Lachlan's the one that actually ends up drinking all of it, and he ends up dying for a bit. I mean, he probably should still go to the hospital, but the dad comes back and sees him, passed out, no pulse, and tries to do CPR and stuff on him, and there is this sort of like him floating in water, uh drowning and like sinking in the water scene, which was really beautiful. And him looking up and seeing these four silhouettes. And I think he comes out of it and he's like, I think I saw God. And for me, I was just like, I feel like he's seeing his family looking down at him. And I was also realizing that in general, he kind of mirrors all of his like family's behavior because it's like they all have these big personalities and he's such a like a little guy. Because at first I was thinking that he was a lot smarter and a lot more just like subdued about his personality because I thought he was like sort of um not taking advantage of Saxon because there is the scene, the little like incesty scene. He just ends up jerking off his brother. They don't actually like have sex or anything, but they are like intoxicated and they are doing this threesome with this woman who's married to Greg or Gary, the guy that is from The Pretender, but that was married to uh Jennifer Coolidge's character in the last season. Um and you know what I was gonna say with that. Um I don't know, but his behavior at first I was like, oh, he is really comfortable. He seemed to be really comfortable with doing drinking alcohol and doing drugs and stuff. And I was like, does he have a whole other life outside of his family where he is more confident? But I was realizing, like, no, he just kind of mirrors their behavior in this way because he doesn't really have his own like personality because of how narcissistic his family is. And it's a means for him to survive, right? And he's a people pleaser, and so his whole excuse was like, "Oh well, I'm a people pleaser. I was trying to please you. You seemed out of it or whatever." And it's like, that's just gross, though. Don't do that. But that's what fucking drugs and intoxication does. Which, speaking of, there was that whole monologue with what's his name? Uh, Sam Rockwell, who's playing this character, kind of a walk-on role because he is partnered up with Leslie Bibb, which is one of the women. He's playing one of the women in the girls trip. And so he was there in Thailand with her and I think asked for a role and he kind of just did this walk on role of this like kind of crazy guy. Well, okay, he wasn't crazy until he got intoxicated, but he was talking about how, he came to Thailand because he had a fetish for Asian women and he would just be having sex, doing drugs, drinking alcohol every single day. And it got to a point where in his head, in his intoxicated brain, he was like, oh, maybe rather than fucking these women, I want to be one of these women. And not to say he wanted to be trans, he wanted to be a small Asian woman getting fucked by white men specifically. And then so he decided to sort of dress himself up and, then he started fucking men and then would pay women to watch, essentially. And then at some point, he's like, actually, this this is not my life, and sobered up and stopped doing all of that. And I'm like, yeah, drugs and alcohol are going to, make you into this person, is how I came out of that scene. But TERFs were kind of whole. Grabbing onto this narrative and saying like, "See, this is what trans women are," or whatever, and it's like, did y'all just like people just make up their own narratives and shit, like with anything? Because I'm like, he literally was talking about how he wanted to be an Asian woman, not a woman, an Asian woman, because of his fetish for them. He wasn't talking about being a woman or anything like that. He was talking about being an Asian woman. And I'm like, that just completely changes the conversation. Like, that's not, it's like trans women come in all shapes and sizes. Specifically in Thailand, they call themselves lady boys, I think. Um, which, that's just their culture and how they describe themselves. And it's like, it's different. It's different for everyone. And I'm just so tired of TERFs and like conservatives and Republicans and whatever. Um, making up their own narratives about people and not and just caring so much about a non-existent issue and it's like and then to the point where they're taking away the rights of people. Like literally like I can never support like I already wasn't fucking with Harry Potter. Like I didn't like that series growing up or anything. Like I don't hold it doesn't hold a place in my heart in any way. I watched some of the movies. I didn't watch all of the movies. Like it was, and I only watched them because they came on TV. And that was me like as a child or whatever, like a tween, and it's like, oh, this is on TV, whatever. But I'm like, she literally funded something in the UK in order to, um, here, let me look it up because I'm like, I want to be specific, but I'm like, she literally used her money to fund this like really awful bill in the UK. And I'm like literally supporting her in any way goes towards her doing shit like that. And like there's no excuse for even like remotely um doing any sort of support because she still owns the Harry Potter IP. So anything Harry Potter related, the money towards that goes to her. She gets a cut every time. So it's like let me see what it's called. Funds bill UK. Yeah, like fucking even this article is calling it how JK Rowling helped fund the UK's war on trans people. Like she literally gave this bill like 70,000 euros. I fucking hate her. Like I literally fucking hate her. I'm like, there's no okay, so basically the UK Supreme Court judgment. Wow, okay. Let me be able to read. Because she literally posted on Twitter, like, I love it when a plan comes together, and she's like, with alcohol. blunt in hand, calling it a blunt, but she's probably just smoking tobacco. And like the plan is in reference to a UK Supreme Court judgment that ruled trans women should not be considered women. And it's like, what the fuck? What the fuck? Like, I hate her. Like, literally hate her. Like, she is like, how do you make what other people are doing with their bodies, with their lives, how they want to live and everything, a problem for you, right? Like, why does someone saying they're a woman threaten you as a woman? If anything, it just expands the definition. It expands how you know you should treat people and how people should be treated. Because it's like how things with it all really comes down to accessibility, really, because it's like you're helping this one group of people, and it's actually going to make convenient for a lot more people. But I don't know. I'm like I hate what the world is looking like right now, but it's like it's gonna get worse before it gets better, unfortunately. And I hate it here. Um, Let me go back to White Lotus. So Lachlan ends up dying briefly. He comes back to life, but he seems very changed and shaken up by that whole experience. Piper doesn't want to be I mean I think she still believes in like Buddhist stuff, but she realizes that like oh, she's not that different from her parents, her mom, her family. Saxon, on the other hand, has just been going through it, um, and actually wants to become a better person because this woman that he was attracted to, you know, kept turning him down. And she's like, sure, I'm with this older man, but at least he's like authentic and like true to himself. You feel soulless. Like I don't, I don't feel anything from you. You don't feel like a person. And I feel like that really just shook him the fuck up and woke him the fuck up about that because it's like I was talking to my friend the other day, it's like men live in such a echo chamber with each other about like what women want and what women desire. Like like it keeps coming up of like how could women think that the body of this man beforehand is better than the body that he currently has, and it's like y'all are being fed this power fantasy. Y'all are and you're buying into this power fantasy. Um of like, ripped abs, lots of money, cars, and women on your arm and whatever. And it's like those people don't look happy. They don't even really look. They don't even really seem real, you know. And it's the the before, like I always love bringing up Hugh Jackman and uh how he's advertised to people because it's like Hugh Jackman for Women's Health magazine. He's wearing a sweater. He's smiling. He's not he doesn't look threatening or anything like that. And then Hugh Jackman for Men's Health, he's shirtless, he's ripped, he's all these things, he's like yelling and stuff. And it's like even just looking at how this same man is being advertised to women versus men, it's like this is what women want, like this cuddly guy who looks, normal, first of all, um, and who looks nice. He looks put together. He's wearing a sweater. The sweater looks great on him, you know? And it's like dad bods are cool because it's like that person, like that person seems like he'll be great to be around. He's probably funny, you know? He probably takes care of himself. He probably likes being around kids, and like taking care of his family. He probably likes hugs and stuff, like someone who's like super jacked doesn't really give that same vibe, like you look like you care more about the gym than you would care about me as a person. Like, hey, what are we talking about? It's like they need like men, specifically straight men, need to realize that they are being fed a power fantasy of like this like male empowerment nonsense and not actually being told how to be in relation to women. And even more so, just like because there's this whole thing too with like manosphere stuff of like, um, you should do this, you should do that, you shouldn't feel, you shouldn't, go out and all these things. And it's like, who exactly, you're not making yourself attractive, right? Like you're making yourself look good for other men. You're not making yourself look good for women, right? It's like actually, and it's like it also comes down to like, do you actually want to be with a woman, right? Do you actually want to be, are you actually attracted to this person not just for their body but for their mind? Do you actually want to be in partnership with someone, you know? Because otherwise you are doing things for other men and maybe sleeping with women, but you don't think of a woman as a person. So you're not even actually interested in what they like or anything like that. You're just like, "Oh, well, now I bagged this girl. Let me show off to my friends." It's like, what the fuck are we doing? And I just went on another tangent. But fuck JK Rowling, because I still had that up. And so yeah, that was the resolution of the family. With the friend group, it's like the one friend who is the only one that's single of them. She got to sleep with one of the Russian guys, not the Russian guy that they met at the hotel, but one of his friends. And then it was fucked up because he was trying to get her to send him money. And then it was just like this whole thing of realizing that, like, oh, this is just what they do. They sleep with older women and, try to get money from them. But then they also like rob and shit. And I'm like, oh, they do like a whole thing. It's fucked up. But yeah, so she has a monologue. I'm like, oh, this is the second monologue that happens in the show. She has a monologue about how, um, it's like her realizing that like her friends, these people that she kind of doesn't really see that often, they have these wonderful lives, but she doesn't really fully know what's going on with them. Like all, both of them are about appearances, and she's more like real and raw with what's going on with her. And I think rather than her trying to, I think she's accepted not getting them to open up about what's going on and just like realizing like this is how our relationship is. Like you're gonna tell me all your beautiful things and your beautiful lives, and I'm the one over here that's just happy to be a part of it, right? And they're silently judging her, at least with each other. Um, but that's just how their relationship is, and I'm like that was kind of sad and like it was a beautiful speech as well, but I was just like, oh, this is just kind of sad. I'm like, what kind of relationship is this? And I was also like, well, honestly, she probably has like actual real friends that she sees more often than these guys because they only do these trips like once a year or something, and otherwise they go to their separate, you know, um, lives in states or whatever. So yeah, I'm like, she's probably I think it was like her coming to terms with like what their relationship with each other really means and then just being like, well, I guess this is it. Um and so that was the resolution there. And then the other one was with like Belinda and how her son shows up and basically she ends up getting a lot of money, I think like $5 million, because he lowballed her. Gary lowballed her and was like, I'll give you $100,000 to keep quiet about where I am and about Jennifer Coolidge's character and whatnot, and like how he's being searched for in Italy. And then her son's like, you should ask for more. And of course she feels away because it's essentially blood money. He's asking for her silence. Um, but he, she does make up her mind because it's like otherwise, um, I don't know. I think she just feels like she's just one person, and he was able to get away with this. And if he wanted to, he could have killed her as well, right? And so rather than ratting him out and then more than likely him coming for her, uh, she took the money. Now the whole thing was like, oh, she got all this money and then left the guy that she met at that resort, and how she ended up being like Jennifer Coolidge's character of like this whole promise of creating a business together and all this stuff, and like getting her money and everything like that, giving her money and everything like that. But I did kind of see that at first too, because there is that parallel between that. Um and I think it was supposed to be a parallel of like this sort of cycle. But again, but the main thing is that like Belinda brought up that she wanted to make this business, and she brought up what she was what she had went through with that woman, but she wasn't saying it as like a we should be in business with each other. She was just saying that as like pillow talk. Like I was seeing someone say that, and I was like, yeah, she kind of just brought it up because that is what happened, because that is her dream of making her own business and creating her own business. But she wasn't saying I want to be in business with you. She literally only met this guy for a week, like and he was the one to bring up creating a business with her, right? She brought up making a business, but she didn't necessarily say she wanted to make a business with him. He brought it up to her about creating a business together. And sure, I got swept up in those emotions and like um created this thing with him and like ran off or like stayed in Thailand to do this with him, but I think realistically she wasn't going to do that even before she got that big sum of money, right? And like kind of I was feeling like she was taking this as a fling, and I'm like I'm glad that she got hers and she had fun and she left um the island unscathed, at least physically. Because emotionally, she's got to accept the fact that she did just take this hush money from this man who is very capable of coming after her if he wanted to. And I think that constant threat of shit, this man really might come for me, is going to just live with her for the rest of her life. Um, and it's like, would she want to involve a stranger who she just met a week in all of that nonsense? Like even though she did bring up like, oh, I think this is this guy, and he might be involved in like what happened to his wife or ex-wife. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It was a lot. She isn't that character that had these big promises of funding and creating this business. She didn't do that. She brought it up. He suggested going in business with each other, and she never said yes to that. So honestly, she didn't do anything wrong there. I'm just glad she got hers and left the island. Or were they on the island? I guess they were on the island, yeah. Off of Thailand. Um okay, and then the final plot, the people that actually ended up dying. Man, I'm like, let me remember. Why did I exit out of that? But so it was like Walton Goggins, his name was Rick, Amy Lou Wood, who's Chelsea, which I was fucked up what SNL did. They were like they made fun of her teeth, and I'm like, I love her teeth, especially in this like era of everyone and their mom getting veneers, and like teeth are so unique to me. Um, especially like I have face blindness, so just trying to cling on to different characteristics of a person that makes them unique helps me remember them. And like teeth are so unique to a person. And I'm like, I love a gap tooth. Like I love a gap. My favorite. And her teeth are so cute. And it's like if they were over here, it's like one of those things where like it would have been changed or something. Same with like noses too. Noses are so unique to a person. Like no, like your nose is for you. It's not gonna fit on anyone else, and it sucks that people like do nose jobs and stuff. Like the whole uniformity of it all with like nose, mouth, teeth, face shape, skin tone. It's like it's really creepy to me, honestly, because again, face blindness, I'm like people are starting to look the same when they didn't used to look the same. And it sucks. But um honestly, it was kind of coming that Chelsea would end up also dying. Like Rick's character just being so consumed with like revenge for his dad dying, not realizing that the man he thought killed his dad was actually his dad. Womp womp. So he ended up killing his dad, and then he ended up getting, killed in this. Actually, no. He didn't get killed in the gunfight. He got killed fleeing. Chelsea got killed in the gunfight because he was, shooting back and forth with the bodyguards. Um, and then she ended up getting shot by like one of the bullets that went past him, whizzed past him. I'm like, well, that fucking sucks. But I feel like she knew that was gonna happen, or at least, just she knew that her fate was tied to him. And there were also like two other things that happened that were, pretty bad. Like she was involved in that robbery that happened at the hotel. She got bit by a venomous snake, and she knows that things happen in threes, so it's like her life was in danger. It just really fucking sucks that this had to happen. But I'm like, what, four people died? Both the bodyguards got shot. Um, and then Chelsea got shot, and then Rick got shot as well. And Rick got shot by the security guard who he was having a whole moral dilemma of like, well, it's not in me. He's a pacifist, it's in his religion and everything to not do harm to anyone, unless he's being harmed. So then it's self defense. Um, and then fucking crazy, he ends up becoming, well, because the other bodyguards died, he ends up becoming the new bodyguard, and now this is just his job, which is so fucking crazy. And then also it's just crazy too because everybody's like getting on the boat to leave the island and everything like that. And like no one's talking about the fact that there was just this whole fucking shootout. And Saxon, I'm like, did Saxon even know that the woman that he was fighting for died with her, you know, older boyfriend? Like, did he even know that happened? And like, rather than talking about that, the dad finally tells the family what's going on and that y'all are probably going home to not having that much wealth. Um, Parker Posey did a great job too. She was really fun. And I'm also like, damn, I just need a. She's like a Gen X fan. Like people in Gen X are big fans of her because she was in all these like indie films during that time in like the 90s and stuff. And I'm like, oh wow, indie movie queen. I gotta get into her I was gonna say discology, filmology, there we go. Because she seems to do fun like roles. I mean, I didn't even realize she was in that Josie and the Pussycat Dolls movie. I'm like, well, gotta watch that. We gotta get into that. And there was like a clip going around of like her and doing the same kind of accent, like this North Carolinian accent, and being like, well, I can always go back to the Dairy Queen. They always want me at the Dairy Queen. In response to like her character in this not having money and just being like, well, I can go to the Dairy Queen, I guess. But honestly, I mean, it would have been great to see her reaction to not having money, but I feel like with how her personality is built, she has her own money. She has her own wealth. So they're not gonna be fucked. It's just the dad is fucked and it's not gonna be as much wealth as before. And then to switch over to Will Trent, I'm like, I know this is gonna be a long episode. Honestly, I think I'm gonna do a summary again because I'm like going episode by episode is just gonna be kind of like a lot, I guess. Especially because I ended up like watching um it's like 5 episodes and I still have to watch 16, 17, and then the 18th episode is the last episode. I mean, do I even want to talk about Will Trent? I mean, it was good. It's like there were some moments where I was like, kind of forgot this is a cop show, TB8. And and then they're like in the GBI, and then you see that, and you're like, oh yeah, this is a cop show. Forgot. I will say that there is a whole thing where, um, uh, what happens? What happens? I'm trying to remember. See, this is why I gotta get that. I gotta find my notebook again, listing the characters and stuff. So there was an episode, I think it's episode, what episode is this? Episode, oh, literally the last episode I watched. Episode 15, where Amanda Wagner and Evelyn Mitchell, which is like Grace's mom, they're on this vacay. And Amanda gets hers, and I'm like, hell yeah, you deserve it. And it also was like, she I don't think they hinted at it. It's just that the woman she was with was just like, "What about her?" Like she was pointing at like men and then pointed at a woman and was like, "What about her?" And Amanda was like, "She's too young and she seems annoying." And I was like, "Okay, you gagging us for real? Talking about how you fucking pan or whatever." I'm like, "Oh hell yeah, get yours." You know, I was like, yes, representation. And I'm like, such a subtle, not even, well, no, literally, such a subtle way to just introduce this character's like sexual orientation without being like, and she's gay, or like forcing her to be with women, um, or anything like that. Like, it was such a um, just a good way to do that without it being like such a big deal. And it's like, and this is obviously like someone who has been friends with her for years in the context of the show. That's just, being like, "Oh, what about these people?" Like, "Are you interested?" Trying to hook her up. And like I love that. And okay, but yeah, just to kind of go over what happened. So like episode 11 was pretty rough because Will ends up uh killing a child on accident, and I was like, "Ooh, this is rough. This is real rough." And I'm like, "Oh, we're watching a cop show. Okay, I hate it here." And he's dealing with the fact that he um took this child's life, and it was in pursuit of a criminal um that he was shooting at, and but the walls in this apartment complex were so thin that it just went through the wall, like went through and got this kid who wasn't even really supposed to be home at the time because he ended up skipping school. So there's like a whole other aspect to it about that too. But um, so Will's dealing with this like trauma of this happening, and then and we see flashbacks of what happened and how he's trying to save the child's life, and then not, and because of like a traffic jam, because of like a car crash or something, them not being able to get to the hospital in time. And even the residents in the neighborhood are talking about like how ambulances don't even come to their neighborhood that quickly anyway. And it's just like, it's all these layers of like just dealing with like, these being people of color in a neighborhood that isn't really cared for in that way. And then him, you know, doing this, and then the guilt that comes with it. And it was just fucked up. I was like, oh, I didn't think we would deal with this kind of situation. And then someone came in to investigate and see if he was being neglectful in any way. And then they found footage that, like, no, the perp did have a gun. It's just what he wasn't remembering correctly or not. Um, and honestly, he was like, "No, just put me in jail. Like, literally punish me because I did something terrible. Like, this is a terrible thing. There's a terrible act that I did." And I think there was like this whole commentary of like cops not really being punished for killing innocent lives, because they end up finding out like, oh, the perp did have a gun. Oh, he did get shot at first. And um so Will wasn't really punished because of that, because they had the evidence, they had the proof, like, that is what happened, and so the guilt carries on into a next episode where they end up, um, having to deal with, like, a cult, essentially, because it all these bodies keep showing up, and they were trying to figure out how they were related in any way because it was just, like, such a weird coincidence, and, it turned out that they were a part of this, I'm just gonna call it a cult. It's a cult. And the way it kind of got people to join is like being told that they're bad people, Like Will needed to be told that he was a bad person, and I was like, oh shit, he's the worst person to go undercover because he might fall for what they're saying, and thankfully he doesn't. Um, but he did need to hear someone tell him that what he did was wrong and that he's a terrible person for it. And the cult leader was the one that did this. And also, it was to go with like what the cult leader, because I was like, let's say, oh, and this was really funny. Um, so what happens is these two women are trying to escape. We see them trying to escape in the truck. One of the woman gets shot in the back of the head, and like the truck slowly makes its way to the trunk of this older couple's like residence. And I mean trunk as in like a tree trunk. And so the other woman, uh, who's really sick. It turns out she had an infection from the placenta still in her womb. So basically, she had just given birth, and so the cult leader shows up to the GBI, and she has a baby, fresh baby, and Amanda is like, "Oh, she's using that fucking baby as a prop. I'm gonna deal with her because she's a white woman, and of course she knows that people would treat her softer because she's a white woman and she has a baby. So like, oh, let's not yell at this mother, like stuff like that. Like she definitely was like figured out she definitely knew what she was doing, with this whole situation and this whole setup. Um, but what was I gonna say? I just thought that was funny. But yeah, so Will ends up infiltrating this cult and like giving them details because at this point he's still not really back at to working anything like that. Um and yeah, they're able to save that baby because it has a rash and everything and save all these children who have been living there because their parents are part of this cult. And the cult keeps killing people that are essentially about to defect from them and like realizing like there's something off about this and I don't like it. And rather than letting them leave, they kill them. That's how you leave. You die. Um and then yeah, so that gets resolved. And then the next episode, um I'm trying to remember, like I remember part of it, but they still have Will carrying this sort of trauma with what happened. Oh, okay. So so never mind. The cult thing is like 2 episodes. And then um I'm trying to think. I thought that was with Okay, well, I can't remember what episode it is, but essentially the son of the boy that no, No, whoa. Sorry, I messed that up. Essentially, the brother of the boy that Will ended up killing ends up showing up to Will's house with a gun because he came there to kill him. And, that's a child, and he really wasn't thinking, but he was also like, "Well, you got away with killing my brother, so obviously I'll get away with it too, with killing you, right?" So Will takes him back to the apartment, confiscates the gun, of course, because he's like, well, actually, no, he doesn't confiscate the gun. The mom shows up with Will in the house, changing the smoke detector battery. 'Cause it's making that. I hate that fucking sound when the battery is dying. That do like really high pitched sound. The mom shows up and is like, "What the fuck are you doing in my house? You literally killed my son. Like, what are you doing here?" And then, of course, Will tells her like what happened. Like, your other son showed up with a gun wanting to kill me. And she's like, we don't own a gun. I don't know where he got that from. Ha ha ha. And the end of the episode is like her going to Will's house. I'm like, how do y'all keep finding this man's house? Um, and telling him, I don't forgive you, but I'm trying to be a bigger person for my son so that he can understand forgiveness. Because she was realizing that like how she was feeling and how she was portraying herself in front of her youngest son was probably why he got the idea to kill Will Trent. Um, so she was like, I'm gonna be a big person and like come here. My son thinks I'm forgiving you, but I'm telling you that I don't forgive you. And then she asked Will about her son's last moments, and he's being truthful and honest about that. And then, she ends up crying, and I think Will's about to cry too. And that's kind of the resolution of that story. I mean, I think Will's going to still live with the trauma, of course, and they probably will play with that. And then there's a whole thing of like Angie coming over to comfort him versus the current woman that he's seeing wanting to comfort him and that not actually happening. Um, and Will essentially distancing himself from the woman that he's currently dating. And I'm like, oh God, please, no. And then, oh, so another plot point that's been kind of happening is like Will um, unintentionally getting Faith's, uh, saving Faith's son from not getting arrested for possessing meth and, being a drug dealer and saying that he's actually an undercover agent for the FBI. But then he doesn't tell Faith about this, so he's just been working with the son, and like trying to get evidence about Raphael, which it's like Raphael's all entangled with what's going on too, with the GBI because his daughter is currently staying at Amanda Wagner's home. And there was like a whole episode in the beginning of this season where the daughter gets kidnapped and everything. But Raphael, works for gangs and stuff. So it's like, there's like a whole thing where it's like, oh, well, you're not a good person, but it would suck to, take you from your daughter. But he's so entrenched in this gang life that it's like, it would be hard for him to just like cold turkey leave it. And so what happens is like, Raphael's mom passes away and, he wants to make a funeral. He wants to do a funeral for her. And Will gets involved with this because, he had lived, like, after turning 18 and being kicked out of the foster care system, Will had lived with, um, Raphael and the, is it the grandma or the mom? No, actually, I think that is his grandma. Actually, let me look at the episode description. Let's see. Grandma. It's his grandma. It's Raphael's grandma, not his mom. And then so it's just it's so convoluted. It's just like Will trying to be here for this person both because of just like their past and then also because of the grandma and how much the grandma like cared for him when he was younger. And then we do get flashbacks of like Will younger and Raphael younger and all this stuff. And I think that's cool. And they used the same actor from previous seasons who played young Will. I'm like, that's great. I love when they do like recurring characters, even if it's like something like a past version of the character's self. And then what happens this episode? So yeah, so it's like all these things of like, okay, this man is grieving, Raphael's grieving, but then also we got to kind of take him down just to save Faith's son from having to do what he's doing. And so Will uses the funeral and everything as a way to get Raphael to be distracted. And then they get Faith's son to sort of sneak around in like the office because he's using this record label as a front to essentially move money from all the drugs that they're selling. And yeah, so he the son basically is like trying to find the evidence in um like accounting ledger stuff to prove this. Um and then they realize that this other gang is like out to get Raphael and get all this money that Raphael was planning to move. And it's fucked up, but it turns out that they put the money in he put the money in the casket that was planned for the grandma. I was like, well, where's the grandma's body? What the hell are you doing at this fucking funeral, man? But essentially that goes down and they end up um basically giving Raphael an out by putting him in witness protection with his daughter. So now they are going to be, taken to this facility essentially, and that's kind of the end of that plot point or that plot that's been kind of happening the last season or so. Um, and yeah, like Raphael is able to live with his daughter, and he'll, have to go on the stand and everything like that later on, which we'll probably see maybe if they want to bring that character back. But yeah, that was kind of how that resolved, and then and then the final thing that was happening was like us getting more of like sort of Angie's backstory because in the last episode I watched, aside from Amanda and Evelyn doing their trip and then Evelyn trying to hook Amanda up with people, and then getting Faith and Armwood to show up to actually work the case because they're like, no, we're on vacation. I mean, this man didn't do it because he didn't, but we're on vacation. And and then Armwood was he kind of confessed to Faith about how he actually has a tumor in his head, but he doesn't know if it's benign or cancerous, and that's been like working on him because at some point in a previous episode he faints and misses his son's debut on the stage, and he tells everyone, oh, it's because he was dehydrated, when really it's because he has a tumor. But he doesn't want anyone to freak out until he knows for sure if it's like benign or cancerous. So it's like that's all happening. And then we get to Angie visiting her mom in the hospital because she was told that it's probably going to become her final moments pretty soon. So she decides to visit her, even though her mom is like pretty much a terrible person. And of course, the mom is just like, I did the best that I could. And it's like, you sold your daughter at 5 to a man for money, for drugs. I think you could have did better. Think you could have did better. But I think it was drugs. It was something, but she definitely, pimped out her young child at a very young age. And because of the mom, like alcoholism and addiction just runs in the family. So especially because of those experiences that Angie had, she was an addict, um, and specifically an alcoholic. And throughout the last 3 seasons, we interact with her, like, sobering up and everything like that, or she has sobered up, and she's been doing, like, AA, and she even was, like, sponsoring someone, and, she dyes, um, her mom's hair blonde because apparently to her mom, gray means she's dead, and she's like the mom can't wake up and see that her hair is gray, so she dyes it. And there's like this whole thing where the mom apologizes to her and like, well, this is a fantasy. Um, I'm like, damn, this is the second time this has happened in this show specifically of like these parents who weren't that great and weren't really um around like emotionally for their children. Um, speak to their adult children and apologize. And I'm like, wow, that's fucking crazy. Um, But Angie's mom apologizing and, mm, and all doing all this stuff, it kind of plays out as like maybe that was a dream sequence because afterwards the mom passes away and then Angie breaks sobriety and gets like a whiskey neat. And that was kind of how that episode ended. And that was like just like the end of or the last episode that I watched. And now there's like 2 episodes I gotta watch, but I think I'm gonna just binge the last 3. So next week I'll probably talk about the last 3 episodes of Will Trent. And then we're gonna do like a cute little movie break where I talk about a movie. So I saw Colorful Stage, the movie, Miku Who Can't Sing. And it's kind of funny because I feel like all the movies I've seen in theaters this year so far, like I saw The Colors Within, I saw this Miku movie, and I saw Sinners. I feel like all of them had something to do with like music and music making. And specifically with the Miku Who Can't Sing. She's like a Miku hasn't been seen before, and she can sing, but her music isn't reaching the people who need to hear her the most. And it's kind of crazy because like I went with a bunch of people and we kind of showed up late, and I was just confused. I was like, I don't know what's going on. There's like 5 different groups of people that we're following. Um, it was created by Studio PA Works. Yuki Hara was the director of it, and it's actually based on a Hatsune Miku game called Hatsune Miku Colorful Stage, and we got to see it in subtitles. But it was a cute movie overall. I just was like a little confused, but I was just like, we're just gonna go with it, man. We're just gonna go with it. I also not really that into Vocaloid, so I was like, I knew there were other Vocaloid characters, but when I saw them, I was like, I guess that's them. I guess that's who I'm seeing right now because I don't know who you are. um, which was kind of fun, I guess. And it was really funny because when it got to the, like, actual concert and music parts, there was someone, like, right in front of us who actually had, like, glow sticks and was, like, jamming, and I was like, "Damn, maybe we should have had glow sticks." Then it, like, turned into a concert, and it was, like, there was, like, an after credits scene where Miku actually performs her song that she was singing throughout, and it's, like, it actually becomes a concert, and then it was so fucking funny because when all the lights came on, it was like, "Oh, we're the oldest people in here, actually. What's going on?" Everybody else was like tween and like 18 and younger, maybe early 20s, like maybe early 20s. And I'm like, I was actually kind of shocked that there weren't more people that were older in there because I'm like, Hatsune Miku is a relatively old character. I was like actually kind of shocked. And it was on a Sunday at like 4 p.m. So I'm like, what do you mean? This is like peak time for people to be out watching a movie. But I'm like, how old is Hatsune Miku? So I'm like, it's at least from like 2000, yeah, 2007. This character's been around for since 2007. There should have been way more people that were even older than us in this fucking theater, but I digress. It was a good time. It was a good time. Um, and then let's see. I guess we'll end it there for that. I don't know what else to say. It was kind of fun. I was a little confused. There was a character that sounded like a 40-year-old man, but he was a teenager. And yeah. I guess I'll get into Castlevania Nocturne, which is actually kind of funny because so I had moved. I'd finally been done moving and I was unpacking. Sinners had just come out. And I was like, damn, I'm not going to see Sinners right now, but I have an itch for something vampiric. And I was like, let me finally watch this fucking season 2 of Castlevania Nocturne because literally I hadn't watched the first iteration of Castlevania at all. But I watched Nocturne because I was like, there's black people in that. I need to see this. There's a black vampire. I need to see this. And they're hot. Let's watch this. Let's watch this goddamn show. And it's so good. It's a good show. This had 8 episodes as well. I don't know why I said as well. Oh wait, because because the White Lotus had 8 episodes, and I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I like the. I actually don't know if it was originally done in like Japanese voice acting. I watched it in English dub. Which honestly it just made more sense to me because some of the characters were like supposed to be Caribbean, British, and all this stuff, so it just didn't make sense for me to not watch it in English. And then what was really cool is like characters like Annette and Orlok or rocks Jesus and Dolta were all played by like people of color, like literally Drolta. I don't know how to pronounce these people's names. Drolta was played by a black woman. Annette is played by a black woman. Ol Rocks is played by a Native American. Who honestly I've seen him in so much stuff. In general, when I like actually looked him up, his name is Zane Clarnin. Yeah, which actually interesting enough, he when I looked him up, he was in Westworld. I don't know if I'm gonna leave that pause in there, but there was a very long pause of me trying to remember what the fuck that show was called. But he's in Westworld playing the Native American character who wakes up and realizes that his world isn't his world and that he's actually just like this robot, essentially. Um Damn, I miss World. Honestly, the first 2 seasons are good. The third season was like, hmm. And then they're gonna have a final season that they paid all the actors for. They wrote it and everything, and then it got canceled, and that pissed me off because I was like, they're gonna at least go back to Westworld. There's gonna be a resolution because the one of the seasons kind of dipped for me. But anyway, so Castlevania Nocturne. Apparently there's like a whole lore with the Belmonts. They are this family of vampire hunters that usually work pretty closely with Alucard, which is the son. He's like a half vampire, half human. He's the son of Dracula, and I'm like, is he the son of Dracula or is he Dracula? Because Alucard backwards is Dracula. Which I think what the hell's the name of that show? Helsing. Helsing plays on that of like his name is Alucard, but he's actually just Dracula, and he was too lazy to. He just flipped his name around. He thought he was just, Dracula. Um, but there's yeah, so there's this whole the whole plot in the second season is like there's Drolta and Iserbit, and Drolta is basically trying to make Iserbit into a vampire messiah. She's essentially wanting to create turn Iserbet into the reincarnation of Setmet, which is this Egyptian goddess who she worshipped, because Drolta is very, very old. And so they were able to, let me think. There's like apparently like three parts of a soul, essentially, and they got two parts of the soul, and they needed the third, or two seemed to be enough, and the third one was the thing that was still missing that would have essentially caused uh them to be able to sort of stop Iserbit, essentially. And so Annette's character, who's like very much like this hoodoo character, she's been seeing like spirits, she does like magic and things. And so she's the one that realized like maybe if we get in contact with this third part of Setmet, that they can stop Iserbet and stop them from making eternal night for the vampires. And so she goes into the spirit realm in order to reach Setmet. And so she actually interacts with Setmet and is like, the whole reason you're not able to pass over is because parts of you are being used in the human realm, and they're doing bad things with you right now. That's why your soul is heavier than this feather right now. That's why you aren't able to, you know, be able to move forward. And so what ends up happening is Setmet possesses Annette's body, and then there's like this whole fight that ensues that between Setmet and Iserbit, and honestly, it's fucking crazy. Oh, and then there's this whole thing with Maria, which is like Richter's like friend or whatever. So the Belmont we're following, his name is Richter. Um, he's like the current generation of vampire hunters, but there's honestly not that many of the Belmonts left right now. It's just like his uncle. I think it was his uncle. Let me look my notes. Notes. I don't see anything. I'm really confused. I'm really confused. Grandpa. There we go. It was his grandpa. So it's his grandpa, him, his mom got killed by old rocks, which honestly, it was more of like a you killed my lover, I'm gonna kill you situation. Which old rocks, he's been he's been interesting. He's like with the Hobbit and everything like that. Like I'm like, okay. Love my old man Yowie. It's kind of funny to call them old. I mean, old rocks is old, but Hobbit isn't that old. And I'm like, I'm 31, man. Well, 30 is not old. Now that I actually am 30, I'm like, yeah, this isn't old. 50 is like old, but um what the I'm like I got a little sniffle. Um honestly, I just ended up talking about the show and not like detailing any of the anything. But I don't know, I really enjoy the show. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. So Drolta actually got killed by Alucard in the last season, and Iserbet is really sad about it, and she gets the okay, I fucked up. So so Iserbet gets Emmanuel, who is the Hobbit. I messed up. Olrox was with Mizrak, which is like he worked under the Hobbit, but he isn't the Hobbit. The Hobbit is more not powerful, but like he's in a higher position. Mazric is not in that high of a position, but he is very religious. And both of them, the Hobbit and Mazric, um, were making these like creatures, and it's like, is this really? You're kind of going against God right now. I don't know. This doesn't really feel that good. But anyway, so Isrbit gets Emmanuel the Hobbit to resurrect Drolta because that's like her most loyal servant, and they're able to make her into one of these like night creatures essentially. So she's like even more powerful and like better than she was as just like a regular vampire. And honestly, there's like a whole thing where Annette as Setmet defeats Isrbet, and then Drolta's like, I didn't need to find someone to become this incarnate. I'm powerful enough to be this incarnate. And then she like consumes Isrbet and becomes Sekhmet again. And I'm like, "Ugh, come on, you guys." But, plot, conflict, all these things. But I mean, and then she gets defeated, but I'm like, ugh, she was a bad bitch. And I love it. She was a bad bitch. But I don't know, it's a good show. I liked the spirituality aspects with like the hoodoo and Annette's character and talking about spirit realm and things like that, and then just the whole addition of like ancient Egyptian like gods and all that stuff, like culturally good. 10 out of 10. Love it. um Annoyed that she ended up Annette ended up with the Belmont boy, but I'm also like, it's fine. It's fine. And it's really cute because he decided to go with her to the Caribbean in order to, free her people. And I'm like, hell yeah. Okay. Keep him around. Hell yeah, let's do this. Um, it was cute. And then All Rocks ended up turning Mazarek because he was dying, and he was like, Do you wanna live with me? A woo? And I was like, oh, that's cute. And honestly, because of Mazrick, um, and his resolve to like see things to the end, that helped Olrox make a decision to actually, you know, even though he's lived so long and he's seen, all these things happen, he would always just run away to save himself and not actually be fully in the conflict at hand. And Mazrick's resolve helped him have his own resolve because he's like, I don't actually believe in what Izrbit is doing, and I don't want this. So he actually ended up being on the side that was against Izrbit and Jolta in the end. And I was like, I love that. And then he's like, I don't want to lose you. And then, turned him, and I'm like, hell yeah. Put that gay shit on. I love it. I was gonna say, it's a cute show. It's not a huge not a cute show. There's cute moments, but it is pretty violent. There's a lot of great action scenes and stuff. But I enjoyed it overall. 10 out of 10. And we're going from one vampire thing to another, and we're gonna talk about Cinders 2025. Loved it. Um, Honestly, I loved it so much. And actually, before we get into it, I'm gonna read the um beginning. The sort of I was gonna say quote from it. I'm gonna quote the beginning, which honestly sets the stage for what this movie is about. Because it's not really like there's vampires in it, but honestly, I'm building it up. Let me just read what Annie says, which is one of the characters. What Annie says in the very beginning. There are legends of people born with the gift of making music so true it can pierce the veil between life and death, conjuring spirits from the past and the future. In ancient Ireland, they were called Fili. In Cha land, they called them firekeepers. And in West Africa, they're called Kryats. This gift can bring healing to their communities, but it also attracts evil. And so, with that, it's like it kind of clues you into like this movie being honestly more about music and blues and community and ancestry and like connecting the past, the present, and the future through music. than it is about like vampires because what happens is like we kind of get a scene of Sammy the preacher boy, and this is like after everything is happening, the very beginning, and he's got the scratch on his face. He's got just the neck of the guitar that he plays, that we see him play later on. The guitar is completely destroyed. And he's made it to church where his dad is like a pastor. Um, played by Saul Williams. Um, and so we see him after all this, and it's like we know something happened, and we're kind of taken through the journey of what happens, and we meet the Smokestack twins, which they're both played by Michael B. Jordan, which is kind of funny. And their cousin is actually Sammy, who's played by Miles Canton. Um, which I think this is like his breakout role or something. He's doing a fantastic fucking job. I mean, he's probably been acting before, but he does a really great job. Um, and oh, okay. So he's actually just a musician. I mean, he's a musician and an actor. And oh, he's such a baby. 2005 is crazy. To be born in 2005 is crazy. um, yeah. So the Smokestack twins just get back into town. This takes place in the Mississippi Delta during the 1920s. Um, so it's like year behind after slavery, black neighborhood, all this stuff, and they want to start a juke joint because they come into some money, and they've got Irish beer and Italian wine for sale, and it's like, how'd y'all get that? Why y'all dressed like that? What's going on? But I mean, Annie, who's played by Wunmi Masaku, um, is Smoke's former partner. She's like, you done did something to these Irish gangsters and these Italian mobsters in Chicago, didn't you? That's how you got all this. Like, please don't be coming back here with this nonsense. Um, I don't know. So like basically the plot is essentially like the Smokestack twins coming together, coming back to the Mississippi Delta in order to create this juke joint with the wealth that they've come into and the alcohol they've come into, and sort of making this like they want to make money from it, but if it was able to stay around, it would have just become a space for the community to, break free and find enjoyment. Especially, after working and having to meet quotas with the cotton picking and stuff. And it's like this, yeah, this just would have just been a space for respite. And it's like music and dancing is that is what that stuff is. It's just like, this is how you become, it's how you gain freedom. It's how you can let yourself go. It's where you can find joy, especially in music. Um, and it's like how a lot of like our ancestor or it's how our ancestors, my ancestors were able to survive, finding joy in things like that. And it's like this movie is heavily about blues and the power of blues. Um, and let's see. So we see the twins split up. Um, one of the twins um is trying to get um Grace and Bo. These are they're the Asian American, Chinese American characters that we get. And that was another thing that I enjoyed about this movie is like you could kind of call this like a Western in a way because it's like it's taking place in the South. We do see cowboys and everything like that because we do see these Native American characters later on. But it's like this is like one of the first times I've seen a fucking Western style movie that actually included um Asian people because Asian people are very much in the South as well. They're an integral part of the South as well as Native people. But when you like actually see Westerns, it's like all white. And if a black person is in it, they're playing like a fucking stereotype. Much less having an Asian person in it at all, or even a Native person. And again, they're probably playing a stereotype. So I was like, this is welcome representation because Asian American people exist in the South. They do. They have country accents. Like that is a thing that happens and still does. And like, um, I think after Sinners, or even during the promotion of Sinners, there was like this whole thing that was going around about like Asian run grocery stores and like how a family might live behind like the cash register or something, and like that was just like how people grew up. Um and let me see. So you have one of the twins runs into Bo, which is the husband, played by Yao. That's all I could find about his name. Apparently he's like an actor, poet. He's Bay Area based, and like, oh, that's cool. Um and I did see someone point this out and how Bo has more of an accent that resembles the way that black folks speak in this movie versus his wife Grace, who's played by Lee Jun Lee, and how her shop is both on the white side of the street, and how she also kind of has she talks more like how the white people talk. And I just thought that was an interesting thing for someone to point out because I'm like, I've only seen this movie once. I'm just taking everything in for the first time. I'm like, oh, this is cool. This is interesting. Um, but like, um, just showing the dichotomy of like how the husband is closer to the community, even in how he talks. And I mean the community of black people, than his wife is. And obviously, and there is like a whole thing even in the beginning of like tension of like her not wanting to be involved with the twins and their business because they always bring trouble. I mean, the twins are known for bringing trouble and being trouble in that town anyway. And so they wanted her to make a sign and also for them to supply catfish for people. And then so Smoke ends up meeting up with Annie because he wants to get her to cook the catfish for the juke joint. And then they also end up getting pretty intimate. And I was like, "Ooh, okay, you better get it." And Annie is actually the conjurer of this movie. She's the one that knows more about the spiritual stuff. She made a Smoke a Mojo bag that was used that he wears, and it is essentially a protection sachet. And what was the thing? It was like there's this whole thing of like conjure and hoodoo being like sort of um synonyms for each other. Like both words are used to mean the same thing. And they actually they had a hoodoo consultant by the name of Dr. Yvonne Char Charu. Oh my god. Ah, so bad at pronouncing names. They had her come in to consult with this film, and she was talking about how she doesn't do horror, and like how I was reading an interview and like how with her, usually when hoodoo, voodoo, conjuring is depicted in films, usually in like a horror aspect or like it's bad or anything like that. But I love the depiction of it in this film of like, this root work that was going on with Annie and how, it's herbal, um, and things like that. And it was depicted in a way that was respectful, and it was honestly, it came down to like using her because she had the knowledge of like what they were dealing with later on in the film, and how to deal with it. And let me think. Yeah, so after all of that, after they do the gathering and everything like that, they get the joint together. In the very beginning, the Smokestack twins buy this like old sawmill or whatever, and of course they're like, "You're not with the clan, right?" For this white man. And he's like, "Oh no, sir, no." And it's like, "Yeah, you probably are," but obviously they're like, "Well, if we see any clans person or any white person even reach this like our line of sight, they're gonna get shot and killed because you were pre-warned." And it's like, oh man, and that's like the end of the movie, but I'll get there. I'm like, what else happens? It's been kind of funny seeing memes about how much in this movie they I'm about to say eating box because that it's so funny to call it that. But there's this one specific meme that is really funny to me about like straight men that don't eat pussy watching Sinners and like being next to their girlfriend who's like, "Were you taking notes?" And he's just like, "What button are they talking about?" And it's like, Ryan Coogler, we get it. You eat box. It's so fucking funny to me. But no, I mean there were actually a lot of scenes, a lot of dialogue about that stuff. It's kind of funny, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, he's Ryan Coogler is teaching this next generation very important information." But it's so funny to me. I'm like, wait, did my laugh just not? Whatever. Let me not read anything, or pay attention to this. Like I'm monitoring my levels and everything and making sure I'm reporting, but I'm also like, let me also talk and not be distracted. But so yeah, they're setting up the juke joint. All of this, all of the whole plot also just happens in this one night, one day. It's not stretched out over a period of time. So they're setting up the juke joint. We switch over to presumably our vampire. His name is Remick, played by Jack O'Connell. Um, and people were pointing out that like Skins, the show, it's like British show, and how because it seek to mm, um get unknown actors and specifically unknown actors from like impoverished communities, that it just gave the world these like really hard hitting actors because he's originally from Skins. Who else is from Skins? Yeah, we got Nicholas Holt, Daniel Kaluuya, Dev Patel. Like all of these people came from this show. And I mean, I would need to research it more, but it seems like at least over there, acting it's treated more like this prestigious thing. So it's like you have to have money in order to do acting in this way, and it's like, oh, that's not how we treat it over here. Anybody can be an actor as long as you act. I mean, not to say that our actors are lesser than or anything like that. It's just like there's not that big of a barrier of entry. Like you can go to school for acting, of course, and like paying for college is expensive in general, but it's not as though like I was saying much earlier in this podcast is like schools some schools are throughout the country have like their own theater programs and stuff in like public schools. It's not like a charter school situation where or a private school situation where it's acting is only available to people who go to private school, so it's like um things like that exist in this country even though shit's being taken away, but there isn't like for some parts of the country there isn't that barrier of entry where you have to wait till college. Like you could be getting into acting as young as like 5 or 6. Depending on where you live, of course. It's not that easy everywhere, but again, I wish acting, the arts, and all this stuff, that stuff was more accessible and made more available to people, especially music as well, because learning music at a young age is very important, I think. But yeah, it's like all of those actors, unknown people, um, they came out of that show and they're doing so much. I mean, think about Daniel Kaluuya and his fucking career. It's like crazy. And like Dev Patel currently owns his own production company. He's making his own movies because he wasn't getting opportunities to be in these like action films and things like that. So he's like, I'm gonna make my own shit. But yeah, so it switches from them prepping the juke joint for tonight's soft open or opening and to Remick running away. So like he's burning up in the sun and he sees these white people in a cabin. They're not hiding that they're clan. Their fucking robes and shit are just behind them on a chair. And he's like, these Indians are, trying to get me. They stole all my money. They killed my family. Like, help me, house me, or whatever. Let me in. And they let him in like a dumbass, but he's white. Um, so they believe him. And then the Native American characters show up and they're like, hey, we're looking for this man. He's dangerous. And they're like, we don't know what you're talking about. We don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, you know what? We warned y'all. The sun's about to set. We're going to get out of here. Good luck. Fucking rode off. I was like, oh hell yeah. Y'all were like, you know what? We tried to warn you. And that's the best we could do. Goodbye. Like I love that. And then of course he kills them. Like of course Remick the vampire kills the two and turns them. And now it's like, oh okay, so now he's got his little he went from one vampire to three people. And I liked how they did the vampires in this because it was more like hive mind, vampire as monster, not vampire as monster and vampire as seduction, but not seduction in like a sex way, seduction in like a power way, right? Because it's like vampires are powerful, they're very strong, they're fast and everything. Well, no, they're just powerful. I wouldn't say that we saw any examples of them like running super fast or anything like that, but it's like a vampire is um a predator of people. So obviously they're gonna have whatever a predator of a person is gonna have. Um so then the juke joint is running. I would say the main thing is like Sammy's gonna be a part of the entertainment and they get what's his name? Delta Slim, played by Delroy Linden, to also come and like play music as well because they kind of entice him with beer because he hadn't had beer before. Um, to come and he's like, "You're gonna get paid in beer and food and money." And he's like, "All right, fine." And I mean, even with his character, we see him when they're driving to get to the juke joint. He sees a chain gang of people, which is like, they're I'm saying that, but I'm like, I don't know whoever's listening if you know what that is. But it's like people who have been incarcerated and they're chained together by the ankle and they are either hammering or doing some sort of like work in the field. I think specifically they're using like pickaxes and stuff. So they go past them and he starts to hum or sing or whatever. And then all the people in the chain gang also say step back. But then there's like a cop on a horse that's nearby and he shoots into the air to get them to stop. And so Delta Slim talks about how he had ended up getting arrested with them because he had come into money, but these white folks didn't believe that it was his money, and so they ended up getting arrested because of that. And he was released, but they were still there. And I think they ended up. I think later on he tells a story about how someone he knew got lynched. Um, and to calm himself, he ends up starting humming in order to feel better. So again, it's like this parallels of like music and the healing nature of music and blues specifically, and how blues comes from this like sort of pain that the Black community went through during slavery, during Jim Crow South, and all this stuff that happened to us um, here in this country that they want to hide the history of from people, and it's like, no, we learn from our history. Um, and yeah, so there's this great, beautiful moment where Sammy, and also with Sammy, because again, there's a scene prior to this where Stack is explaining to Sammy how to go down on a woman and what to look for and everything like that, and he ends up meeting this woman named Harleen, played by Jamie Lawson. She is married. We never see her husband though. We never see her husband. She shows up to the juke joint and he goes down on her, and they're getting all acquainted. But there's this beautiful scene with Sammy and how he's playing blue, the blues, and he ends up conjuring the spirits of his ancestors, but not only his ancestors, we also see like the Chinese ancestors. Um, I wouldn't fully know what they're called, but we do see all of these other people in like these very traditional older dress. And then we also see how blues ties into rock and roll, and how and like electric guitar and stuff. So he conjures up people from the past, ancestors from the past, predecessors from the future, and they're all in this beautiful scene in the juke joint performing and dancing with the present. But just like in the quote from Annie in the very beginning, this power of music conjuring the past and being a positive thing, it also attracts evil. So then we see that Remick is called to this juke joint because of Sammy's music and because of his playing, and we see that he's enticed by this. And there's this whole thing too, I think that they kind of play on is like how Irish, Italian immigrants, they come over here, they came to America as immigrants with their culture, but they had to remove their culture from themselves because of whiteness. So there's this loss of culture that has happened to, Irish Americans, Italian Americans, and all this stuff. Now they're just considered white, and whiteness, and just white people, right? And I'm like, I don't fully know what's going on with them. Like, obviously there should be an embrace of their culture, of course. But it's like, and it's erasure of their culture in um for whiteness against blackness, right? So it's basically like you're getting rid of your culture for whiteness because you don't want to be seen as black, because at some point, not Italian, Irish people immigrating were put in the same category as black people. They weren't treated the same, obviously. Like some of them were like enslaved, but it wasn't, well, if anything, they were more indentured servants. Like they were sent here as part of a, prison sentence where they would have to be servants to people. But it was a sentence. So after their term was over, they were free to go. It's very different from being an enslaved person. But anyway, it's like they had to get rid of their culture for whiteness in order to not seen as black and be seen as better than that. But yeah, there was kind of a play with Remick and his character, because it's like he's this Irish vampire, and it's like he had to, put that aside when he was talking to these racist as white folk and getting into their home and being like, "Oh, I'm just white. I'm just white." And he has money. And then later on, we see him interacting with Sammy, and this is like after the big like blowout, and Grace invites all the vampires in, which was fucked up, but it also, I was thinking of it in like a film and storytelling sense of like, this is the big conflict, and at this point some sort of conflict had to happen, or else the movie was going to stall and it was going to get really boring really fast. So it made sense to me that this was the decision that would happen, and it also made sense that Grace would be the one to do this because she is, in a way, an outsider to this community of people. But also, I mean, I figured that the vampires collectively knew that she would be the weakest link because, they had her husband and used that information towards her. I mean, like, fucking, she was crashing out when that fucking vampire spoke to her in Cantonese about how he knows how she likes to be licked. I'm like, oh my god. Oh my god. And how they would go after their daughter. I don't even know what I was saying. Oh, so later on, like, Remick is interacting with Sammy because Sammy starts um quoting like the Bible and everything like that, and then all of a sudden Remick is also quoting the Bible at him, and then he has all the other vampires say the same lines, and then he talks about how in the past his people, his Irish people, were also conquered by, you know, Catholicism and Christianity and stuff. So there was this whole thing of like, oh yeah, Irish. And then there was there was the scene that kind of felt like Thriller in a way where they started dancing and doing, I was gonna call it the Irish shuffle. River dancing. There we go. And I was like, this that felt so surreal, but also that song was kind of a bop. But it was so surreal. And like what else happened? Yeah, it's like, we get into the action of it all, and like Mary, who I hadn't talked about, played by Haley Steinfeld. Jesus Christ, can I talk? Uh, um, is Stack's love interest, who he encouraged her to marry this white man and continue to pass, because passing during this time, it's like, I feel like people confuse passing with being mixed race, and it's not necessarily that passing is person that passes isn't necessarily someone who is mixed race. I mean, typically they are, but you can be mixed race and still look black. Passing, especially when it comes to like white people, it's like this person can look at you and think you're a white person, and only with you explaining your lineage or whatever is, this person going to be like, oh no, you're not fully white. And so there's like the whole 1/8 rule, blood drop, blood quantum nonsense. And it's like, that she is of the community because the Stack twins used to live with her and her mom. And it's like, that's not going to happen if she was a white person. And she shows up because she's disappointed that they didn't visit her mom's funeral because her mom like just passed away. So she's mad, of course, and then of course Stack and her get together, and then but she gets turned and he doesn't know that. Oh yeah, that's what it is. Cause it's like we get this whole like white privilege that comes from someone who passes because she thinks that like, oh, her proximity to whiteness will, be able to get her to understand like what these white people want. And she's also trying to, get them to be able to turn a profit. She's like, oh, well, maybe if we let them in, and they can play their little banjo and play their little songs. And it's so funny when they show up. Honestly, this movie has a lot of funny, good moments too. Like, it's really funny. And like when they show up as a trio, 'cause we, as an audience, know that the two that he showed up with are Klansmen. But for him to get them to like act all like happy and like, you know, just like, oh, I just want to play my little songs. I thought we were gonna have a competition. I swear we're not with the clan. But he's just looking back all sad, like, we're gonna walk all slow just in case y'all change your minds now. It's just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, it was just really funny. And then what else do we have? So, um, that happens. And so she goes out there, and I'm like, oh, fuck, you're gonna go out there? Jesus Christ. And, she gets turned. She's the first to get turned, and then she ends up getting back in the juke joint with Stack, and Stack dies, and I'm like, oh, that's fucked up. But I mean, he gets turned later on. It's like a weird thing with saliva rather than honestly, the saliva. I said it's a weird thing with saliva, and it's actually like if I think about vampire as predator and vampire like as a snake or something, like the venom would be in their saliva. So it makes sense actually. The saliva thing. Um and so she turns Stack. He turns later on, but she runs out after being like in him and bloody and everything. And she's like, we gonna kill all of y'all. Also, like, she technically got invited back in. So couldn't she have gone back in there by herself and just invited all the other vampires in? Now that I'm thinking about it. But of course that happens. Stack gets killed, and everybody's like, well, we're just gonna close this shit up because I don't know what the fuck that is, but we're gonna leave. Which was not a good idea because they were safe in that building. And Grace gets her husband to go get the car, and I'm like, that's how he gets turned. And it's just a handful of people in the juke joint. Cornbread gets turned. He was like the bouncer that they got off the field to come and work there because they were gonna pay him. And I'm like, what happens? I did like in this movie, when the vampires got hurt, they lived with those wounds. Like, so Cornbread gets shot in the face, and his face gets like horned up and like um messed up. And but he keeps that, right? And I'm like, in so much like recent vampire media, they heal instantly, they're super fast, there's all these things, and it's like, we haven't really had vampires monster in a while. And so I like that aspect of it. Um, I mean, I'm like, what else is there to say? But Grace lets these vampires in, and it's fucking free for all. They end up killing a lot of the vampires. Um, it's oh. Let me go back. So Annie, is the one that figures out that they're vampires. And they thought that someone got killed and that one of the people remaining in the building was a vampire, so she had everybody eat garlic. Everybody's fine with the garlic. And then they're like, shit, was that actually blood? Or was it alcohol? And it ended up being alcohol that spilled. And I was like, damn. So they lost a different person because of that, unfortunately. And so Annie tells her that, like, sure, living forever, that's great, but I don't want to be stuck here. So if she's talking to Smoke about this, she's like, I want you to kill me. I need you to end my life because I don't want to be stuck here. And it's so, so sad because she does, Stack ends up turning her, or like, about to turn her. Like, she's about to turn, and we see Smoke have to kill her. And it's just so sad. And yeah, she has the knowledge of like stake to the heart, um, that kind of stuff. And it's so, so sad to see Smoke kill her, but it is what she wanted. And I'm relieved that rather than him being selfish and wanting to keep her there for himself and like, maybe even turning himself, that he honors her wishes. And it's also one of the only times we see Stack do anything that's sort of violent because we do learn. earlier in the movie that Smoke is actually the one that ends up killing their dad because he was super, super abusive to both of them growing up. And Stack, I was seeing someone talk about how like Stack is able to behave the way he is because Smoke's the one that actually does commits all the violence. And he knows that Smoke's gonna have his back all the time. Um, so Stack turning Annie was a means to like get Smoke to join in on, what they're doing. And so that they all can live together because Stack had uh Mary. So obviously Smoke should have Annie if they're gonna live, live together in these times as brothers and, be with their lovers forever. But so then of course Stack was disappointed because he's like, why would you do that? And then there's like a whole fight scene between the two brothers, which was wild. But I'm assuming because Michael B. Jordan had a body double. His name is Paul Sampson. I'm like, ooh, that makes sense. First of all, so I'm assuming the body double was in there playing the other brother while Michael B. Jordan was fighting him. And a lot of those scenes were shot from the back, so it would make sense why they would do that if they're using a body double to stand in for the other brother. Um, and yeah, so in the boot joint ends up burning down, or it's on fire, and Sammy is able to escape. I mean, he kind of jumps from really high and like falls, and Remick is trying to get him because he's like, Sammy, I came here for you because I was called to the power that your music has. Like, I feel that you would be able to um reunite me with like my ancestors and my culture. And just imagine the stories that you could tell if you had my memory, because we would be connected in this way. And that's when Sammy goes into reciting scripture. Um and I don't remember what. Oh, so while that's happening, Smoke and Stack are fighting, still in the building fighting. And so Sammy ends up uh kind of getting baptized, actually, now that I think about it. Remick dunks his head under the water a few times. And honestly, there was this whole thing with religion too. It wasn't like super push that like religion is the thing that saved Sammy. Music is the thing that saves Sammy because he ends up using the guitar to he he beats Remick with the guitar, and there's this metal part of it, this silver part of it that gets lodged into Remick's head, and that actually like hurts him and like subdues him for a while, and then the sun is rising, and then we see this fucking scene, this gorgeous scene. I mean, it's terrible, it's horrifying. Of all the vampires that were still outside when the sun came up, burning, and with Sammy and Smoke watching this scene happen. And, and then they just go up in flames and then turn into smoke and then they die. They're gone. And then, oh, before I move on fully, Grace ends up being the one that kills Bo, and she like stabs him, and then they kind of get skewered together and like are on fire. It was like just this fucking crazy scene. But she's like, I can't have you be this, and probably can't live without you either. So she died with him in order to protect their daughter. Um, and then so the day's over, all the vampires are presumably gone. Sammy drives off into town, and Smoke is just there because he, remembered. Oh, actually, no, not remembered. Remick warned him that the clan would be coming in the morning because since he had the two white people's memories that were a part of the clan, he told them that that's usually the plan. Like these people usually show up, torture people or whatever. And then a bunch of people show up in the morning. So Smoke, remembering this, he gets prepared, and there was like a whole thing with it being kind of talked about that they were like in a war essentially. So he has all these fucking guns and everything that he's just ready to, kill these people. And so that white man that sold him the place shows up with his gang of people, and Smoke is actually like in the trees farther away, and he's sniping these people until he's out of bullets. And it goes from like him having to deal with these vampires all night to now him dealing with these racist ass white people in the morning. And he gets rid of his mojo bag. And for me, as I think, as I watched this with a friend, we were in the theater, and she thought he turned. And I was like, no, he just wants to die. He wants to be reunited with Annie. And because the mojo bag is the thing that's been keeping him protected and alive. And he even goes so far as to say, like, well, if your mojo bag could protect me, why couldn't it protect our child? Because he had a child with Annie, but the child died. And of course she's just like, I don't know. Like I don't know why it didn't work. Like, it's something it's like out of her control. So it goes back to the mojo bag, and he gets rid of it, and he's killing all these racist white people. Um, and then he does get shot at some point, like in the stomach area, but he's still like alive. So the last man standing is the man that sold him the space in the first place, and he's like, "I got a lot of money, don't kill me," and he's like, "Fuck you," and then just fucking shoots him up with bullets. And while that's like kind of happening, we see that he's getting like sort of a vision of Annie with their baby, and he's telling Smoke like, you need to stop smoking, you need to stop doing this, you don't want the baby to inhale all that smoke and stuff. And it's just like this beautiful scene of like him being reunited with her, and I was like, oh, I was gonna cry in the theater. And then finally we're brought back to the very beginning of the movie with Sammy going to church. He's got the neck of the guitar. His dad is telling him that he needs to let go of music. He needs to let go of the sin of music. And rather than doing that, and rather than this being a movie about how religion good, music bad, and embracing music, I mean, embracing religion is the thing that will save you, Sammy runs away. He runs away to a town over, which is something that I think I want to say Stack was bringing up of like how he would make it big if he just went further, away. And he runs away, and we see years later that he becomes this really successful blues player. And funny enough, he's played by Buddy Guy, who is a successful blues player in his own right. Like um, people like Jimi Hendrix were inspired by him. Like, and it's so amazing that they could even get this man to do this sort of cameo role as this character in this movie, and you see that he still has like remix scars on his face, and then that's kind of the end of the movie. And then we get a mid-credit scene of older Sammy in the club, and he these people come up to him, and he's like, should we let these people in? They said they want to meet you, but they don't have like a ticket or anything like that. And he's like, yeah, it's fine. And he's like, wait, let these people in. He's like, oh shit, here we go again. And it ends up being Stack and Mary, because they survived all these years, and they talk about how, they followed his career that whole time, and they've been watching over him. And they ask him if he wants to be turned, because they can smell like death coming for him. And they were like, "Do you want to be turned so you can continue making music?" Um, and he said no. He declined it, and Stack respected that and moved on. and he was like, "It was good seeing you." Um, and that was the end of the movie. But then there was another after credit scene where we see young Sammy again playing the guitar back home, like in Mississippi, and he looks up to the sky and it like ends there. So it's like we know that he passed and we know he was able to move on and be reunited with his ancestors again. Yeah, fucking phenomenal movie, man. 10 out of 10. I gotta add that to my letterbox. um, and yeah, I definitely want to see it again. I want to see it in IMAX. It was shot on IMAX film cameras. And so the thing about IMAX and the thing about film in general is that if you think of memory, like a memory card or anything like that, there's a certain level of information that that the memory can hold, right? And digital still hasn't really uh, met the same film quality and information that film can hold. Like if you think of 2K, 4K, 8K, that's the level of quality that film has. And even then, there's still more than that. And so for it to be shot in IMAX, shot in film, um, just the vibrancy and the information that the film can capture is gonna be more vibrant, it's gonna be more uh colorful than a digital um version of it ever will. And like typically with IMAX, um and it depends because it's only like a few IMAX theaters even in America. They usually, because I used to work at theater and I was doing projection. I wanted to do like film projection, but either way, I worked at a theater when when Dunkirk was out. So they fly in like an IMAX tech and they have the film, like the actual film, and it's like huge reels of film, and it's two of them because the room is huge. And I'm like, it's like the size of a car, like the width of a car. And it's like two cars worth of film being run at the same time and then projected into this huge, massive screen all at once. So to see this movie in IMAX, it's just going to be a whole other experience because you're going to be fully engulfed by the imagery and the film itself because of how big it is, the quality of it, the vibrancy of it. It's just gonna be something else. So I'm like, I have to see it in IMAX. Honestly, I wanted to see it first in IMAX and then see it in theaters like regular. But that didn't end up happening because IMAX kept selling out. But either way, I'm gonna end it there before I keep getting all nerdy about like film and whatnot. Ryan Coogler released a video that explained the different formats, so I'm like, watch that if you want to know more. But yes, I am back to my regularly scheduled episodes a week. Although this is coming out on Saturday instead of Friday, but next week it'll come out on Friday, hopefully. And with that, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.